All right, so
Perfect.
this is episode 15 with Sherrina Clark. Had the opportunity of meeting her just this school year, but Sherrina she taught math for 15 years. She's currently a district TOSA teacher on special assignment, and she's also a liaison for the Citizen Science Project. So Sherrina, if you want to hop in, share a little bit more about yourself. While you do that, I'm going to be putting this link up on Twitter. Okay.
Oh, sweet. Well, you said it all. I'm Sherrina Clark, and I've been working in the current high school district for 16 years, and I've been teaching for 15 years. And this is my second year now out of the classroom. So this one I'm going into year 17 of teaching, and I'm really excited about the Citizen Science Project. I'm working with mentors and resident teachers. Those are new teachers in a program that we call the residency, and trying to help them, talk about issues of community concern. And then I'm also a university supervisor for Cal State. So I'll be looking over some math folks, some new teachers to kind of help guide them in their journey and being a teacher. So it's been really been interesting. I've been enjoying the work so far, and it's been a huge break from teaching in the classroom. So I love that.
Cool, cool, cool. Let me ask you, what subjects did you teach in math at the high school?
So I would range from the what they would consider lower level, which is foundations, all the way up to I taught gate algebra 2. I tend to connect with the kids that feel like they can't do math. So yeah.
Me
Oh
too.
no,
Me
don't do
too.
that.
Me too.
Everyone can learn math at high levels, I promise. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I wasn't able to get any calculus or math analysis classes, any of those higher ed courses. I actually did teach at Garces for my first few years. So from there, I was able to teach like a college algebra class, but that was still kind of like, it was probably equivalent in high school to like an algebra 2, maybe like a pre-calc.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Yeah.
Hey,
So
you know what? That's
geometry,
kind of
algebra, all that.
Hey, you know what though? That's kind of where I want to start. Because so I taught high school and I did math intervention and sped, and then I did middle school because I wanted to like see how I can get to the kids sooner, and then I taught elementary, and then so I feel like I've seen them all the way down. And the tough part is that even like at elementary, I could see a kid that's struggling, and I could tell you like, oh man, if like something doesn't change quick, like this
Right.
little guy is going to be in, that remedial
Trouble.
math class, ninth grade, held back, or doing it twice, 10th grade.
Right.
Um, like, what advice do you have for those, for those new teachers coming in and that might be, coming into the math at the high school level? And actually, I'm thinking of a few of them that I know that are doing math at the high school level right now. Like, what advice do you have, especially like with kids that are struggling?
I just, don't have misconceptions about their potential. You are trying to untrain, a mindset of years and years and years of failure with, little to no success. So, you just have to find that untapped potential that they do have in them. The skills may be low, but the mathematical thinking is always there. So if you always pose it through that lens, I think you'll find that kids will be successful. And if you praise on that success that they've made, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, that's powerful. That's so like tell me this part. This part is one area that I noticed, and I could be wrong because I did math for 2 years, or I did high school for 2 years, but I noticed that like when a kid comes in, okay, so let me backtrack. I know that they need to have the concepts down, like the conceptual understanding. I know all that for a fact. Like they need to like understand the numbers. They need to play with them. There's that important element. But when I worked at the high school level, I can see that a key identifier was like a kid that couldn't multiply was going to struggle way more than a kid that could multiply, And
Yeah.
so, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that, or how, I guess, what are your thoughts on that? And then what are the key things do you think that like a kid needs when they come in to high school, like so that they could be successful, or what does a teacher need to get them to first so that they could be successful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean, I have four kids, and so I'm basically looking at, multiple grade levels. And then I have this high school experience where I see, this kind of dynamic happening in the high school classroom. I would just say that kids need to be flexible with numbers. They need to be able to use whatever prior knowledge they have. Like, I'm not expecting every kid to memorize 12 by 12
Mhm.
multiplication facts. But I mean, some basics like their twos and their fives and their threes, like all of those will help build up sevens and eights and nines because we
Yeah.
can expand those and we can decompose seven with five and two and things like that. I feel like the drill and kill, especially at the younger level, and then no conceptual meaning behind it,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, kids just drop off the radar. They just drop and they're like, I hate math. My poor
Yeah.
daughter, she's in sixth grade now. And she's like, it's so boring now. It used to be so fun. And I'm like, no, it's just between fifth and sixth grade. I feel like that's where the biggest like gap starts to get wider.
Yeah.
So if we just continue to encourage kids to be flexible with numbers, and I know
Yeah.
this is going to sound crazy too, especially like, what I'm recommending for high school kids, I'm recommending that they play puzzles
Yeah.
and, they build things.
Yeah.
And, my son and I, we play pairs of 100. So,
Mhm.
we look at when we're driving around in the car and we look at the last two digits of a license plate, it's like, oh, how many more do I need to get to 100? And like we
Mm.
play this game in the car and and with my kinder, we play tens. So
Mhm.
we do pairs of tens. My 14-year-old can do pairs of 100. And then, I mean, I
Yeah.
just keep encouraging that flexibility because the teachers that unfortunately they're experiencing, they're not doing that. So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
encourage as many kids as I can. Like, as long as you're flexible with numbers, you're going to be fine. Like,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I like it. I like it. It's that that enjoyment, right? There's a certain enjoyment that kids get. Everybody gets, right? Being able to do to play with numbers and to manipulate them. Yeah, because that's been because I remember so when I did high school, that was like one of my first that was one of my when I first started teaching. And I remember like the majority of kids couldn't multiply, and so I spent like in the beginning I spent some time like, oh man, you guys got to learn your multiplication tables. And then I remember most of them didn't learn them anyways, but then like towards the middle of the semester when we were doing more hands-on learning and like project-based learning, um, they were, they're solving like ratios and they're doing all these like higher order thinking, and
yeah.
they're doing grade level work, but they still couldn't multiply. And then that was for me one of the first times where I was like, did I really need to waste my time on the multiplication? But I never forgot that I can pinpoint who it was going to be easier for if they can multiply. And then the other ones I just felt like I had to like put in a bigger effort to bring them in.
Right. I,
It
I
was
mean, being able to multiply, yeah, it's great to have. But I mean, do
yeah,
you really understand the
yeah,
conceptual meaning behind it? Do you
yeah,
understand that it's a repetitive pattern?
yeah,
It's, something that, we call ourselves mathematicians, but I call my students mathematicians because I want them to think of themselves as somebody that can think mathematically. But can you recognize patterns? That's what
yeah,
mathematicians do all the time. They recognize patterns and trends, like
yeah,
trends in data, trends in numbers, trends in visuals. Like, that's what we do, and we find errors in those patterns and things like that. We find outliers in data.
yeah.
So the
That's a different
multiplication is
mindset.
built from, yeah, it's built from
That's a different
recognizing a
mindset.
pattern. That's
Yeah,
how it comes about,
yeah,
but we have this strict box that we like to have kids in, and then we use that box to sort of track them. Oh, well, they can't do this, so they go here. When they can do this, so they go here, and
yeah.
that's not the way we should be, encouraging our kids.
And then we label them. That's the worst part. We label them.
Yes. Yes, they're a lower level kid. They're a general education kid. They're not an
Yeah,
AP kid because they can't,
Yeah.
as opposed to talking about what they can do, we're always focused on what they can't do.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, that's powerful. No, thanks. The you see, because I taught math a couple of times, but I kind of did it for the challenge. Like I just I mean don't know if there's any other math people listening. Like, so I would always say like, I'm not really a math person. Like I, I, somebody had said like, you want to teach the math here, or can you teach math? And I just thought I would be like a boss if I was like, oh, I'll teach whatever. And then they gave me math and I was like, oh my goodness. And so then I had to like learn up on it. But once I got into it, I really liked it. And now I love it. You know, that's some of my favorite years have been with math, but I didn't consider myself a math person, you know, like as a grown man. So what do you like, what do you say to that? What do you say? Because it's not just kids, it's adults too. Like,
Oh
how do you
yeah.
change that mindset?
Well, for kids, I mean, I share my personal story. I struggled in math,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting here in front of you as a math teacher, and I had C's the whole time. For some reason, I couldn't get anything better than a C, and I worked really hard, and I revised my work over and over and over again. And when it came to the test, I don't know whether it was test anxiety or whatever, what was happening during that time. I wasn't able to push out more than a C, but I'm still telling you that you can learn math. It's not impossible to do. Like, you have something to bring to the table, and your perspective might even be better than mine. Who knows? For adults, it's a little harder, because as we get older, we get kind of set in our ways. But at the same time, it's like we're doing this for kids. So I wouldn't just encourage adults to, first of all, if you're a parent, please don't say, well, I wasn't good at math. I wasn't. That is not what you should say to your child, because that doesn't help them build and foster a growth mindset.
Yeah.
That just validates for them, well, she couldn't do it, so I can't do it either.
Yeah.
It really just is building on what they do know and trying to
Yeah.
expand that.
Yeah. What are what are like some good I don't know, what are your favorite math class memories? You know, what are a lesson or what you know what I mean?
Um, well, I love visuals. And so visualpatterns.org I use quite a bit for kids to recognize patterns. I probably had my biggest like aha moments from that website, using a couple of visuals where kids were able to like generalize a pattern without me having to tell them, whether it was a linear pattern or an exponential pattern. They figured that out, and they were able to make the connection between what was happening in the visual and what was happening in the actual general, I will say, expression that they created. It was amazing. So that's kind of like my go-to. And then there's another website that has a lot of like puzzles and games. It's enrich.maths.org. That's has plethora of activities, but the game playing, where kids have to strategize and make decisions based on numbers they choose. I mean, that's probably one of the best. I mean, because kids love to argue. So if they're going to argue, you might as well
Yeah.
argue about numbers. And
Yeah.
so they have some great activities where they can do that, and
That's cool. That's
show
cool.
some
Then
off
no,
their
I
skills.
I'm liking because I'm hearing your perspective. It's way different than mine in math, and but I can see now when like when we're in the citizen science meetings now, I can see kind of where some of your answers are coming from because you're looking at I mean, you're looking at the math like a, well, I mean, like as a tool, you know. So like when you're saying, you know, the numbers are around us and being able to. So let's, I don't know. I guess let's pivot into some of that. Like, can you explain? I mean, you know the citizen science better than me. I mean, I've got through the site and all that, but you want to explain a little bit the citizen science and then your role as a liaison?
So I will do my best. But I mean, we are really trying to, you know, address, I don't necessarily want to say address, but I guess we're trying to bring awareness that we can help students um, be advocates for change. I think that's like the underlying goal. And we're doing that through a lens of community concern. So we're taking on issues of community concern, and we're helping teachers and students sort of build out the capacity to bring awareness to the community. And we've had our director, Brittany, she's had some like great insight to different communities that have been able to use students as the advocates for the change. And so I think her biggest point that really like stuck with me, and is kind of like the driving force on why I keep pushing, for this, is that, we raise these students in this community, we
Yeah.
teach them in this community, and then they leave this
Yeah.
community and they don't come back. So we want to try to build in that advocacy action piece for students to stay here, like to advocate for the change so they don't have to leave this
Yeah.
community. There's whatever these issues that are in the community that force these kids to say, I need something better, as opposed to what can I do to make this community better so that I can stay here and not have to be somewhere else. So
Yeah.
that's what's kind of sticking with me with this whole citizen science project.
No, that's cool. The because yeah, that's those are the essentially the same pieces that really kind of stuck to me, kind of the vision, and then also when I got to meet you all, and just that community component, I think is something that's really I don't want to say missing, because I know the districts are implementing a lot of initiatives, so I like we have like at BCSD, we have family and community engagement. So the district's putting that for us. We also have parent academy, so parents, can come in and get some kind of like almost like mini courses. We have other, a lot of good things like that. But I don't know. Talk to me a little bit about why is why is the community important? Sometimes when a new teacher comes in, or even if you've been teaching for a while, and why is it important to address like the community, or embed like the education within what our larger community is? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Um, my thoughts are this, I mean, the community is where we live, is where we eat, where we sleep, where we, interact with others. I mean, even like this, I mean,
Yeah.
that is our community. And if that is failing, we lose that sense of belonging. It's almost like, how they try to tell, how they advocate for SEL, the social emotional learning, how it shouldn't be some addition to your instruction. It should be a part of. And, our community should be a part of our instruction, because it kind of shapes who we are. Even though we bring our different cultures and our backgrounds and our experiences, into the educational setting, we still have to go back into our community when we leave school. And, it's ultimately what's affecting our learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids don't come in ready to, dive into number patterns. Like
Yeah.
then, they're thinking about sister at home or mom at home that's on dialysis, or,
Yeah.
they're thinking about the people that they care about that are in their community.
Yeah, no, that helps. The I think what it's helping me is now is I keep uh I keep hearing Jesus and Brittany's voice in my head right now saying data, or what do they call it? Data something.
Visualization
Yeah, data
or mapping, geo mapping,
geomapping, but they say forward facing data visualization or
public
something.
facing.
There we go.
Public facing, yeah, public facing data. Yeah, we'll get all those like buzzwords all
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
Like we
yeah.
need to get them in some hashtags or something, and so we can just keep repeating them.
But hearing you talk, what's making me what I'm starting to appreciate a little, like what or the dynamic that I'm starting to get out of it and appreciate, is that like when they're talking about that, and when you're talking about these parts with the community, then math is natural, right? Like if you're talking about what's going on in the community, like that's all the counting and all the patterns and understanding like how to
Yeah.
identify all those things. So let me ask you, like, what do you think is the so when I did, okay, so this is why I think I did pretty good with when I taught math. Part of the reason I think is because I didn't like how I learned math. Like I didn't really like it at all, the notes. where it
exactly
was
me.
yeah, I remember my high school math teacher, he would say, make sure you stretch your hands. Today's another note taking day. And we're like, man, every day is note taking day. We would start laughing and be like, yep. And but when I taught math, I remember like taking the kids out to the football field and like doing measurements and like making stuff and like
Yeah.
we would do all kinds of things and sometimes the kids would it would be funny the kids would say like, wait, is that math? And I was like, and then I would go, what about that, and he goes, oh yeah, he goes, this is pretty cool. And then like I remember we made like a story of a we made a story of the zombie apocalypse and then like the rate of like infection.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's a good one.
But
I've
why
used that lesson.
but what do you think is it that keeps us from making math more hands-on, like just at more levels in general, you know?
I I have to attest it to not knowing, like the fear of not knowing. It's almost like, you're the instructor in the room, so you should know all the information, which for me in the very beginning of my years of teaching, I thought that was absolutely true. And now for me, it's like, it's absolutely false. Like, I don't have to be the knower of all the information. Like, I'm still learning some of the math that I have been teaching to this day. So
Yeah,
I can't expect you can't expect me to know all of it. And you bring some of it, something, you can identify a shape. You could probably make that a triangle with three people and, talk about the line segments that can intersect. You bring something. So I just feel like the fear of the unknown keeps teachers in the let me just show you and tell you and show you and tell you. And then you do 500 problems and then
yeah,
regurgitate what I just did. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want to visually show students, but I want them to tell me what's happening. Like, what
Yeah,
do you see? What do you notice? What
yeah,
would happen if I change this? Is and get their information, like get their processes in their brain, like, oh, well, if I change this, maybe this would happen, and then let them try it. So I take on more of a visual approach, like I show them a visual and I ask a lot of questions. And
yeah.
that's frustrating for high school kids because they've been taught for 8 years to just write everything down.
Take notes.
Yeah, 8 to 9, maybe 10 years to just write it down. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's frustrating. But after a while, they're like, okay, we get it. You're gonna ask us, what do you notice?
yeah,
That's right.
that's right. A the because you're talking about wanting like you know you don't have to know all of it, and so that takes me in when I was doing middle school math, I had I was doing like intervention coach type of thing, and there was one boy who would come in and he would the first couple days he wouldn't do anything intervention. No, the first day he wouldn't do anything, and he had actually showed up because he had ditched class, and then he showed up in there, and I was like, hey, well, you know, you walked into math intervention, so let's see how we can get you. And then I talked to his teacher, and we are like, hey, he's gonna come in again, and I told him, hey, yesterday when you came in, you just kept laughing the whole day. Let's try and do something. Let's try and let's get into the work a little bit. Let's see what we can do. And then I do a problem on the board, and then he says, "You did it wrong," and I go, "What do you mean I did it wrong?" I go, "You go from laughing to I did it wrong," and they go, "No, you should have put that." And then I go, "Oh yeah, you're right. I should have put that. I should have put that." And then
Yeah.
I try another problem. I go, and then he goes, "Oh, I can do that one." And I go, "No, you can't. Let's see you do it." And then he does it. I go, all right, let's try this one." And then I put a bigger problem, like a really crazy big problem on the board. I can't remember what kind of problems they were. And he knocks it out. And I was like, we have a genius here.
Right?
But like I'm
Untapped
reading,
potential. Just like let them show you what they know first.
like, but what I when I met that boy and a bunch of other kids that year, I realized that was the first time I realized there are so many kids, like you're saying, with potential that in like a different, I don't know, that they can be they we're not giving them the instruction, the experience, the environment they deserve. Like,
Mhm.
and that's a systemic problem, right? So like
It's a
what,
very much a systemic problem, you know.
yeah,
The system that we have generated or that we have continued to follow is based on, you know, pretty much success of
yeah.
affluent peoples.
Who want to sit down, who'll sit down and take the notes.
Compliance,
There
yes.
you go. Compliance. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Because this
not
one,
risk takers, not, you know, people that are you know, not afraid to make mistakes, you know,
yeah.
not those people, the people that will sit in compliance and do exactly what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these were special. Like I'm thinking back to them and I'm just thinking, and I remember I told them too, I was like, man, you're better than me at math. And then they go, no, 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 you know more. Like, well, I might know more than you because I'm older. I go, but man, if you keep going, like you're gonna
Mhm.
you're gonna pass
I
me up by next year.
Right. I had a special ed kid. He showed me how to do, you know, one problem three different ways.
Yeah,
You know, he all he needed was a piece of paper, and I had,
yeah,
you know, this equivalent expressions on. I mean, he showed me a visual model. He was able to
yeah,
demonstrate it by manipulating the numbers. I
yeah,
was like, what? I had to like look at it a couple of
yeah,
times, and I'm like, this is amazing, you know. So we're
yeah,
even, you know, not tapping into the potential of how we label these special ed students.
yeah.
Like they have the potential to learn math at high levels as well. You know, we just have to give them that opportunity to show us.
That's powerful because just maybe they're in a sped class because of ELA or because of some type of processing thing, but that doesn't. Yeah, you're right. You know what other gifts, what other talents do they have, and we're not gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna. How do we
We're
say
not going to
that?
honor that because, you know, like you said earlier, they're labeled.
Because we label
You
them.
know, all of our what our ELs, you know, are put into our, it's like the track, you know, you're EL, then you go into a general classes. And it's like, why does that have to be? Why don't we see where they are before we start putting them in these courses in the first place? Or
Yeah,
why don't we give them experiences so that they can reach that untapped potential that they, you know, do have? Just because they know another language, I mean, that's actually beneficial, to be honest with
yeah,
you, because now I know you can do things multiple ways. Not only can you speak multiple ways, but you could
yeah,
probably do math in multiple ways and other things.
yeah.
Like that's actually an advantage.
Yeah. As soon as they graduate, one of the conversations I had with another guest, a podcast guest, a few episodes ago. We were talking about it, and he said it's weird because when they come in and say they're Spanish only, we try and take the Spanish out of them. But then as soon as they graduate, the first question that's asked to them when they go out to work is, "Do you speak Spanish?"
Right.
It's like that thing that we didn't honor for the last 12 years. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because some have, you know, gone through the whole educational system with that I have to learn English in mind in order to move to the next level, to graduate, to go to this high school or whatever. And then they might have lost that original language, you know,
Mhm.
to some degree, especially if they don't have it, you know, someone in the home that's speaking their first language. So that's unfortunate, is, you know,
Yeah,
I wish I would have put my kids in a dual enrollment or not a dual
immersion.
language. Yeah, dual immersion. That's what it's called,
Yeah,
class, so that they could, you know. I think aren't we the only country in the world that doesn't have kids learn? I
something
mean,
like
from
that.
like young age. I mean, I know we do
Yeah,
it in middle school and high school, but I mean,
yeah,
most countries that when birth, they're
yeah,
learning multiple languages. I don't understand why we don't do that.
yeah. I don't know. It's different. Where the so are you from Bakersfield?
I'm not, which is, you know, why I'm even more passionate
Yeah.
about, you know,
Where are you
community,
from?
because I'm from Ridgecrest.
Ridgecrest.
So
Okay.
it's about 111 miles northeast from here. I call it the middle of nowhere, but I mean, it isn't, I mean, it kind of is, but it's the middle of the desert. So it's off the 14 and, you know, but I came here in 96
Yeah.
and I never looked back. I've been here ever since. And so it's my second home, and so I've seen the changes, you know. When I first moved out here, I mean, there was actually nothing on Allen Road.
Yeah.
It was just a straight. So I've seen the expansion, I've seen the growth, and I've seen sort of like the the falling of other parts of the community. I think I've lived in every zip code.
Yeah.
Yeah, since I've lived in Bakersfield.
So like if you got to so if this is I don't know, like so in our community, like we have the literacy rates are among the lowest. You know, there's always that paper that comes out from I don't know where, but it somehow makes it always on the paper of
Mhm.
Bakersfield literacy rates or Kern County literacy rates. You know, um, I don't know, like as a educational community or as a, I don't know if we're a group or what, you know, just our I don't know what's the call to action, you know, to improve the outcomes here in the Bakersfield area, you know, to make this because I meet you, I meet, you know, people like Brittany, I meet, you know, a lot of people that, you
Mhm.
know, that want to see differences. But what's the? I don't want to call you a Bakersfield native. I'm about to put that. So you're
Pseudo
basically
native.
Bakersfield at this point. So
Yeah, pseudo native. Yeah, second
yeah.
native. I'm good. Yeah. I
So what?
mean, so awareness, I would say awareness, but I mean, we get those numbers every year. So, I mean,
Yeah.
people are aware that there is this problem. So I think now it comes down to um, where in the community, like, where in the community is the biggest problem? And can we start from there? Can we work from the inside out? I mean, anything top down sort kind of just falls apart. I mean, look
Yeah.
what's happening to our world right now. So,
Yeah. You're
but I
right.
mean, it has to be organic and it has to, start with a few people and work its way outward. And I mean, unfortunately, that takes tons and tons of time. So, I mean, we might not see those effects for years, but um, coming in at districts and teachers, that never seems to pan out well. We just need like a select few in, our areas that need it the most to
Mhm.
kind of come together and just start building this change for we know that our literacy numbers are down. We know that our math numbers are down. Maybe we shouldn't be focusing just on those two concepts or those two topics. Maybe we should talk about something broader that infuses math and English all together, and that would make it more exciting and engaging for kids anyway,
Yeah.
that the kids get burned out just like the teachers do. So, and
Yeah.
I feel bad for art teachers and music teachers and
Come
science
on. What's
teachers,
that? What's art?
right? Like they don't get to explore anything because everything is literacy and mathematics and literacy and mathematics. It's like I can, be exploratory in art with literature and with numbers. Like there's patterns in art.
Yeah.
There's
No, you're right.
great literature in art. Like you can do it. But I mean they don't get the opportunity because it's like you have these bullet points that you have to fill in. So I feel like if we can really just can get a few people to kind of organically start making changes, it'll have a better impact than trying to go top down.
Hey, you know what I say to that? I say that with teachers, I say sometimes when what we're doing is we're almost like training we're almost training what do we call them you know how when you go to like and it's not a knock if you're a chef at Olive Garden or you cook at Olive Garden, but when you're working at a franchise restaurant, like everything will come in a bag, you basically heat it up in the microwave, get it
Mhm.
ready, and then it's out. And so I feel like a lot of times what we're doing with teachers and in education is we're training teachers to do that, like get that bag, put it in the microwave, deliver it, put it how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And
I mean, they ask for it. They're like, "Where are my resources?" They get the whole packet like right there. They're just like,
box.
"Okay." Right.
And but if you look at like the restaurant analogy, even in that situation, most restaurants fail, especially like
Hmm.
those big franchise ones. But when you think of like, and I'm not saying mom and pop ones don't fail, but when you think of like a lot of mom and pop where like they own it, and like it might be recipes that pass down a couple generations,
Hmm.
it's a labor of love, things are made from scratch. Usually, like you started at a small location and then you scale up once things get better to like a bigger location, and it's some so what I say is we need more of the mom and pop style of
Yeah.
training educators, you know, where you own, where you're passing something down that was that's you, you know, not the ding.
Right. And it's more authentic, and kids will see your passion like through that work that you're giving to them. Like when you get your box and you hand it out, they see through that too. So I totally agree with you. Like we need to be more like traditional olden days. Let's do it from scratch, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, not everything,
yeah, it's
but I mean
hard.
the way we deliver should
Yeah,
totally be way more authentic than what we're doing right now.
yeah, yeah. No, because I actually had this conversation recently with some people online, and we were saying that so with some of these things, like especially with literacy, that's like a gatekeeper. So if you don't have grade level, grade reading level, on grade reading level, you're not allowed to do this.
Mhm.
So, oh, you don't read on grade level, you don't get science in elementary school because you're going to intervention, so we could get you on grade
Mhm.
level. You don't read on grade level in middle school, oh, you don't get the elective, you're going to you're going to whatever intervention. High school, forget about it. You don't get anything anymore. You
Right.
get like, what are you? And you made a good point. Like, what are your? Because you said maybe we shouldn't just focus on that. So, like, what are your thoughts, or what do you say to somebody that says, but they don't, but they're not on grade level, or you know what I mean?
I mean, are you on grade level? Like, I don't want to be so mean. I don't want to be mean. No, okay, so I'm gonna be mean. Let's just be realistic. We are in the 21st century. We have been teaching this, at least for math anyway. So I'll speak from my experience. Math has been taught the same way for 100 years. We have not changed this traditional algebra, algebra two, geometry. I mean, everything that we are asking kids to do, I mean, a computer can do probably 8 times as fast. So and so they're like, well, they're not on great. Why are we not asking better questions? Is really
Yeah,
what comes down to it. We should
yeah,
be asking kids to do more problem solving. We
yeah,
should be giving kids problems that they should try to make attempts to solve. We should be giving them, attempts to design and think on their own and come up with innovative ways to do, X, Y, and Z, as opposed to this is how you learn how to graph a line. Well, I mean, I can plug in my table and see it in Desmos. I don't need to know exactly how to graph that. Maybe do I need to recognize the pattern that it creates? Sure, but I don't need to know how to graph it necessarily. So I just feel like we want to stick to this box without changing the way we instruct kids. We
yeah,
don't want to ask better questions because they think, oh, well, they can Google it. Well, why don't you ask a question that Google can't answer?
yeah,
Once you can do that, then you know that you've got kids hooked, because then they're going to want to find the answer. Because if they can Google it, so can you. So why are we still teaching stuff that kids can Google? I don't understand
no, that's a good point. Hey, no, what's funny too is because you said, "Are you grade level?" It was like 2 3 days ago. I was at the store with my boy, and then the one of the workers says, "How are you doing?" I go, "Oh, I'm doing good." He's like, "Oh, yeah, it's good to see you're doing well." And then he said something else, or I said something again. He asked me another question, and then he corrected me again. I go, man, he just corrected me twice. And then
Yeah,
I told my
right.
son, and I was like, man, I think that would have been enough right there for the teacher to have said, hey, Gonzalez, I think you don't get art today, man. You got
Right. In the box, because we don't speak,
because I
and we
said
don't,
good.
and how culturally relevant is that? We can't
Yeah,
honor the different ways people speak, especially in, everyday dialogue. Would I
yeah,
write a research paper and say, yo? Probably not. But
yeah,
I mean, at the same time, can I talk to my family members and use particular jargon? Of course.
yeah,
Like, that's what you do in your community. It's in your family.
yeah,
There shouldn't be any like assessment that says that the way I speak to you is incorrect and not on grade level. Come
yeah.
on now.
No, it's true.
I mean,
It's
we could
true.
talk about the number of adults that, don't know how to interpret percentages.
Oh, and then we could tell them they're all off grade level.
Right, right. Like, skip fifth grade, like you're not even at the third grade level and you're not working with percentages. I mean, come on, that's not realistic to say, you know. Everybody can make sense of numbers. Just because you're not good with percentages doesn't mean you're not on grade level.
Hey, I had when I taught sixth grade, I had the kids fixing iPads, and I had never fixed an iPad, and they were fixing iPads. They researched it, they did all of it on their own. And someone had said, "Oh, but he it's too bad he can't he or said something." They said something along the lines of like his reading levels like really really low. And then I remember just thinking, I didn't say it, but I just remember thinking because that person had said, "Oh wow, I you know I had never I tried to fix my iPhone and I couldn't." And I go, don't let me point out, man.
Right,
He just solved the problem that you couldn't.
right, right.
he's
Don't
he saved
don't
$150 on the
misconceive
repair.
that untapped potential. Come on now. Oh
No, that's
wow.
funny. No, that's cool. Thanks. No, it makes me I like it. Thanks, Sherrina. You how are you doing with time? You good or you wanna we'll call it we'll call it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could probably talk for another hour, but I don't want to keep anybody too long, you know. Because I got to get famous one podcast at a time.
All right. Hey, thanks, Rita. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank
Really good
you.
talking with you. And then I'll see you in our meetings.
All right, sounds good.
Take it easy. Bye.